We burned the dead. Just to stay warm. You'd do it too.
Ever stop to wonder how medieval peasants made it through those brutal, freezing winters without central heating, fleece blankets, or electric radiators? Believe it or not, they didn't just survive. They mastered winter in ways that might surprise you. Let's begin with their homes. You might imagine peasants living in flimsy wooden huts slapped together with sticks and prayers. But nope, these people were smarter than we give them credit for. They built their homes into the ground, literally digging down 2 to 3 feet. Doesn't sound like much? Think of it like living inside a shallow trench, except instead of keeping cool, they were trapping warmth. And it worked. Archaeological evidence shows these semi-subterranean homes stayed around 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than above-ground ones during the harshest months. Now imagine this: tiny windows, low ceilings. Why? To trap heat. They didn't need to heat the whole world, just their tiny one-room shelter. And that mindset saved lives. Now here's where it gets gross. And genius. They insulated their homes with wattle and daub. Sounds quaint, right? It's not. Wattle was just sticks and twigs woven like baskets, but the daub was made of clay, straw, and animal dung. Yep, they literally packed poop into their walls. And it worked. Tests show these ancient walls provided insulation on par with modern fiberglass. You might complain when your house feels drafty, but at least your walls aren't marinating in compost. You might think medieval peasants stumbled out of bed whenever the rooster crowed, but their winter schedule was a finely tuned survival plan. They didn't just wake up and work. They split their sleep in two: first sleep and second sleep. After sunset, they'd rest for a few hours, wake up around midnight to tend fires, socialize, or even visit neighbors, and then drift back into their second sleep until dawn. Doctors of the time actually believed this rhythm improved health. Funny how that sounds a lot like our modern sleep science, huh? Work hours weren't random either. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., known as high sun, they scheduled the hardest labor. Why? Because that was the warmest time of day. Records even show villagers were fined for working outside those hours. Winter wasn't a season, it was an operation. At night, entire villages rotated something called frost watch. Families took turns staying up to tend communal fires, check for dangerously low temperatures, and sound alarms when it got too cold. Miss your frost watch shift? You owed the community eggs, firewood, or even livestock. Forget your cozy memory foam. Medieval families piled together like puzzle pieces on wooden platforms lined with straw. It was more than just cuddling, it was thermodynamic strategy. They didn't sleep flat either. The bed platform was tilted slightly upward like a recliner to reduce heat loss. Studies of medieval beds show this angle could raise core sleeping temperatures by 8 degrees Celsius compared to sleeping flat on the floor. And believe it or not, spooning may have been a medieval invention. Manor records show entire families arranged themselves to optimize heat flow, rotating positions throughout the night. Even the platform height mattered. Beds were often exactly 18 inches off the ground, just high enough to avoid the coldest air near the floor, but low enough to capture rising heat. Some clever peasants even built beds directly above animal pens to benefit from livestock-generated heat. And yes, there were sleep inspectors. Court records show officials literally went house to house during harsh winters to make sure families weren't sleeping too far apart or wasting warmth. If they were, they'd lose privileges or be moved into communal housing. Modern freezers? Not even close. Medieval peasants created underground storage pits that stayed steady at 4 to 5 degrees Celsius year-round. Some villages had over 200 pits for just 50 families. That's 4 underground fridges per household. They used hay, snow layers, and thermal gradients to stabilize temperatures. 3 layers of hay? That meant 6 degrees Celsius less temperature fluctuation. And if a carrot started sprouting or frostbitten, that was their medieval thermometer. These pits weren't just holes. They had airflow channels, humidity traps, even clay pots for moisture control. Modern scientists found viable 700-year-old seeds inside some. Even more wild? They assigned someone to taste stored food every few days to test if it had spoiled. It was called the fool's test. Get sick? Too bad. Everyone else got the warning. Their food wasn't just rustic. It was scientifically smart. Take pottage, their go-to meal, a stew simmering over the hearth for days, even weeks. layers of root veggies, beans, grains, each part chosen for sustained heat and energy. Manure records show a specific layer strategy. Root veggies at the bottom for slow energy release. Beans in the middle for protein. Grains on top for a quick energy boost. It was basically the medieval food pyramid in a single pot. They needed 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day just to stay warm. And fermented food, that was their gut health goldmine. Their winter beer was thick, probiotic-rich, and packed more calories per pint than a cheeseburger. Modern lab tests show their fermented foods had up to 10 times the probiotics of what we get from modern kombucha. These folks had better digestive health than most people do today. They didn't wash their wool in winter because lanolin in unwashed wool is water-resistant. They layered up to 5 pieces, stuffed with straw and moss. Some moss types were antimicrobial. They even had designated moss collectors. Winter coats were soaked in sheep fat and tree sap, which created a waterproof layer that lasted for months. Nettle wool blended undergarments? Itchy, but moisture-wicking like modern base layers. Even their pointy shoes had a purpose. Less surface contact meant reduced heat loss from feet. And those odd medieval hoods? Scientifically designed to reduce wind chill up to 60%. Yes, they brought animals inside. And no, not for cuddles. 1 cow equals plus 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. 3 cows, a pig, and some chickens equals home heating system. They created natural humidity, warm air currents, and built pens so cow breath literally vented warm air toward the sleeping area. They even had animal heat rankings. 1 cow equals 4 sheep equals 16 chickens. This wasn't random. Modern thermal studies show their calculations were 95% accurate by today's standards. They designed airflow systems based on livestock layout. Raised feeding troughs, composting floors of straw and ash, and rotating feed chutes kept animals warm, and the house even warmer. Entire villages worked together in military-like coordination, rotating wood-gathering squads. Frost wardens started prepping in summer. Points for firewood, frost watch, pathway clearing. Losers got the coldest corners of the communal hall. And speaking of the communal hall, some had double-door systems to prevent heat escape, like a medieval airlock. Churches had heated rooms called kale factories for the elderly and babies. Some villages even built heated underground tunnels between buildings. Others used hot stones from baking ovens wrapped in wool as medieval space heaters. Medieval houses may have looked rough from the outside, but under the hood they were heat-regulating machines. Every inch of a peasant home was designed to fight the cold strategically. They oriented their homes toward the path of the sun, ensuring maximum natural light and warmth during the shortest days. Even the angle of the thatched roof mattered, steep enough to prevent snow buildup, but not so steep the roof collapsed or lost its insulation. Inside, they hung blankets, wool scraps, and animal hides on walls. Think of it as medieval soundproofing, but for heat. In autumn, they'd reseal every crack with fresh daub, add thicker layers of thatch, and store emergency hay in case insulation needed reinforcement midwinter. The homes were even designed to be smoky on purpose, because that layer of smoke below the roof helped kill bugs, repel mold, and trap warmth like an atmospheric blanket. Modern reconstructions of these homes show that with proper sealing and layout, a single-room medieval house could retain heat for up to 10 hours, with nothing but a hearth, some animal companions, and clever layering. Winter survival wasn't just about gear, it was about rituals, patterns, and community rhythm. When temperatures dropped dangerously low, the entire village shifted modes. Communal meals were rescheduled to late morning. When ovens were hottest, bread bells would ring when it was time to start group baking. To conserve heat, everyone used the same ovens in shifts. Twilight gatherings, or warmth councils, were hosted in the largest house. Just body heat from 20 people could raise the temperature by 5 to 6 degrees Celsius. Even churches had their winter blueprint figured out. They opened special rooms called calefactories, insulated, shared spaces where the elderly and children stayed during peak cold. Warmth watchers rotated duties, making sure no fire went out unnoticed. And then there were the heat-sharing sessions. Villagers taking turns hosting neighbors in a cozy rotation so everyone could benefit from the warmest homes. Some communities even developed underground heat tunnels, not for hiding but for transporting warmth, connecting oven houses to halls and dwellings. Everything, from baking bread to attending church, doubled as a way to stay warm. There were no wasted actions in winter. Every chore, every tradition, every step outside had a thermal reason. They didn't have tech, they didn't have thermostats, They didn't even have socks like we know them. But what they did have was intuition, community, and a scientific mindset born from centuries of observation. Their walls were made of mud and manure. Their heaters were cows. Their insulation came from moss. Their warmth came not from luxury, but from coordination, wisdom, and grit. They built a society where staying warm wasn't just a personal battle. It was a village mission. They lived like one beating heart, working together to survive a season that showed no mercy. So, the next time your Wi-Fi goes out and your smart heater glitches, take a deep breath and remember, at least you're not outside fighting off frost with a cow and a fermented turnip.